All right, today we are in Ephesians 2, verses 8 and 9. I've also printed out verses 4 through 7 because we need the context. And so what we're going to do is we take a look at verses 8 and 9 is to try to determine the main driving verb of this section. For by grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not as a result of works, so that no one may boast. I believe the main driving verb here is have been saved. That's the main thing that he's driving at. Have been saved. Now, he starts off with the word for. For is a word that gives an explanation. You use for to say, I'm about to explain something to you. So, obviously, he must be referring back to something he's already said, and I believe that's true. He already told us, even when we were dead in our transgressions, God made us alive together with Christ. So that, I believe, is what he's referring back to. We have been saved. We have been made alive together with Christ. Now let's look at this whole process of salvation. He says it was by grace. And we'll notice that grace has already come up a couple of times before. By grace, you have been saved. In fact, that's exactly what he says here. He's repeating in verse 8 exactly what he said in verse 5. By grace, you have been saved. By grace, you have been saved. And then he also says here, so that in the ages to come he might show the surpassing riches of his grace. Another reference to the grace of God. For, explaining what I've just said here, by grace you have been saved through faith. And that not of yourselves, it is the gift of God. Now, I believe gift of God is another way of saying grace. Grace is God's undeserved, unmerited favor or kindness. If something is undeserved, then it comes as a gift. We haven't earned it. We haven't deserved it. It's a gift of God. So when he says gift of God, he's just saying the same thing twice in different ways. Now, let's pull this apart. It was by grace, through faith, that we've been saved. The word by, that shows you the agent doing the work. It was by grace, by the agency of the grace of God, that we have been saved. And it was through, the word through refers to the instrument, the means or the instrument by which we were saved. And I'm going to put up here the human instrument. The divine agent or agency was the grace of God. The human instrument was faith. So it was through faith, through the human instrumentality of faith, and by the grace of God that we have been saved. And he goes on to say, and that, not of yourselves, it is the gift of God. What does that, the pronoun that, refer back to? Now, if you only have an English Bible, this is going to be difficult or impossible to figure out, because the word that in the Greek is neuter when it comes to gender, and the word faith is feminine. And whenever in the Greek you use a pronoun, the gender of the pronoun should match the gender of the word that it is referring back to. So it can't be faith. The word grace is also feminine. And so that cannot refer to grace. It cannot refer to faith. So what can it refer to? Well, in Greek, if you have a whole thought or a process, a general process, you can use a neuter pronoun to refer back to it. And that's what we have here, the process of salvation. The whole ball of works, everything included in this salvation, the grace of God, the salvation that he gives us, and the faith that's a human instrument by which we obtain it, all of that is not of yourselves. It is the gift of God. And so let's do this. let's write down, it's not faith. That's not what he's referring to. It's not grace. It's the whole saving process, including faith. Faith is a part of that. Grace is a part of that. And salvation is what he's aiming at. Now, he tells us twice it's not of something. It's not of yourselves, and it's not as a result of works. Number one, this is not of yourselves. Didn't come from you. Your salvation was not a result of what you did. Number two, it's not a result of your works, your deeds. Didn't happen that way. Instead, it was the gift of God. It came directly from the hand of God as a gift, unearned and undeserved. And then he says, so that, by now we know what that means. This is a phrase that indicates the purpose. Why did God set salvation up? So that it would not be of ourselves. It would not be the result of our works. It would come as the gift of God. Why did he do it that way? So that no one may boast. Evidently, God does not want us boasting about our salvation, as though we are the ones that had somehow done something to merit or earn or deserve that salvation. He doesn't like, in fact, God hates boasting. God wants the credit for the things that he does. He doesn't want us taking the credit for what he has done. So here's the beautiful text that teaches us that salvation is a product of the gift of God, the grace of God. It has nothing to do with us, has everything to do with what God has graciously done for us. The whole process is not of ourselves, it's the gift of God. And I hope that causes rejoicing in your heart. And I hope as we have worked through this, this has given you the inspiration, perhaps, the motivation to dig into the scriptures and to write out your thoughts and to underline and mark words so that you see the relationship between what God has said. May God bless you.